Welcome to the Property Management Law Solutions Podcast. Your host, Attorney Tim Baldwin, will guide you in all things property management, law, markets, politics, and commentary. Your property is his priority. Here's your host, Attorney Tim Baldwin.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Property Management Law Solutions Podcast. We have another guest on our show today. And for property managers who are listening, I know you're going to want to listen to this show because it involves your business directly. It involves how you grow your business, the best ways of doing that, and a professional who can help you do that. So Jason Hull, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tim. Good to be here.
Yeah, so first of all, I love your podcast room. It's great.
Yeah, you know, I believe in coaching myself. Otherwise, I'd be a hypocrite. And I'm working with a YouTube coach right now, trying to figure out how to do this stuff right. So, well, yeah, it's time to go pro. So.
I think you've done a good job. You still have a similar setup as me in a way. You have a couch in the back, which I have a couch in the back. Some nice little cool lighting. So that's pretty cool, man.
Thanks.
Yeah. For those who aren't watching the video, you're going to have to go to the YouTube channel and watch that so you can see what we're talking about. But Jason, you are the owner and CEO of DoorGrow, right?
That is correct. Co-owner. Right. My wife and I both own DoorGrow. So
perfect. Well, then introduce yourself, Jason, if you don't mind, to the audience. Let them get to know you a little bit, and we'll get into some good discussion.
Yeah, so my name's Jason Hull. I'm the founder and CEO of DoorGrow. We coach and consult property management business owners throughout the U.S., specifically more focused on the long-term residential property management space. And we're the best in the world at helping grow and scale those businesses. And we've got the most comprehensive program. We have more video testimonials than any other coach or consultant in the space. And we really focus on the growth side of helping them figure out how to grow without wasting a bunch of time, energy, and money on digital marketing.
I love it. You do on that side kind of what I tout myself of doing on my side, which is to help property managers run their business the proper way so they can reduce wasted time and expenses and focus on making money.
Yeah, then we're in alignment for sure. That's a big deal. In fact, with our clients right now in our mastermind, we are running a time optimization challenge right now for 30 days. And we're about halfway through it. So we've got a time optimization playbook because we find a lot of property managers are giving away, they're basically writing a blank check to all their tenants and owners saying, and written on it says, steal all my profits, call me anytime.
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, I understand that completely, and that's amazing that you're doing that. Tell the audience a little bit. How did first of all, like, kind of, what's your background? How did you get into this, and what became your vision for helping property management companies?
Yeah, I didn't wake up as a little kid saying I want to be a property management business coach someday. Like, that just wasn't in the cards. I didn't even know what that was, right? So, yeah, long story short, my brother bought into a property management franchise, had 0 doors with his best friend or business partner, Kyle. And so my brother Brian bought in this franchise, and then he got a free website from them, or a website that they made him pay for. I don't know. But he didn't like it, and he asked me to help him optimize it. And I had a degree in marketing and had just started a web design business back in 2008. And he was like, hey, could you give me some tips? So I gave him some ideas, and then he was like, he made those changes. He's like, could you just build this for me? Could you just build me a new one, like make something better? I don't like it. So I did. And then all of his fellow franchisees started seeing what he was doing and wanting what he had. And so I started getting these clients with thousands of doors. And some of them really large companies. And we were doing their websites for them. And corporate, the franchise, didn't really like me that much because I guess I don't know. They didn't like me for some reason. Probably because I wasn't, part of their network, or wasn't getting the kickbacks or whatever franchises do.
Right.
And But I started doing all these websites, and then these were like large companies. So I was getting these great backlinks. So then my company was ranking for property management website design nationally. And we started getting clients from all over the US. And eventually we ate our own dog food and rebranded to DoorGrow and went all in on property management. And it shifted pretty quickly from just doing websites to helping them figure out marketing to helping them, coaching them was kind of a natural evolution. So, because the reason they came to us for websites is they're hoping to grow, and you can grow without a website.
Yep.
And then we started doing marketing stuff, and then we realized, you know what, they're not even ready for marketing because they're not even answering their phones.
Yeah.
And they follow up on leads like maybe a day later, not within the first 5 minutes. And conversion rates drop like 80% in like the first 10 minutes, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so they were just leaking money. And I was like, well, what if I built a program that shored up all the leaks first? So we made good marketing clients. And the side effect, we created this program. It used to be called the Seed program because we're DoorGrow.
Yeah.
Plant the right seed was the idea, right?
I get it.
The right foundation. We've since renamed it to the Rapid Revamp, and we've optimized it, and it's really awesome. And now we're like Bar Rescue for property managers. Like we've rebranded over 322 companies last I checked. We've done hundreds more than that of websites. We've coached hundreds of companies on systems and operations and scaling. And so I feel like we've cracked the code on growth all the way through all the various stages that exist. And there's some specific stages in door count and revenue where people get stuck and they have certain problems. I just started to notice all these patterns.
Yep.
But the side effect of that original seed program was because I was trying to create good marketing clients because we were doing Google ads, digital marketing back then. The side effect of it was so effective at shoring up all the leaks in their pipeline that it was like doubling the amount of deals in their pipeline flowing through just by removing constraints instead of increasing lead flow, increasing leads. So without increasing their leads, they were doubling the amount of doors they were adding. And then they didn't want to do digital marketing with us. They didn't need to. They were like, no, I'm good now. And so we kind of cannibalized our own product, right? Wow. And so then I had to pivot again. And I was like, well, why don't we just go all in on what actually they need, what actually works, even though it's not what they're asking for.
Yeah.
And so we've always had this difficult challenge of we're selling something that they don't know they need, but it's what works, right? And so that's always been our challenge. So
as you go through this, you talk about the stages, Jason. You talk about the stages, of the property management cycle, which I'm very familiar with. Talk about that a little bit, and what you see are maybe some highlighted problems with how property management companies may be doing business.
Yeah. So I think there's some really, there's some really obvious stages in growth. So the very beginning, I usually call the seeker. And so, they're just like, they have no doors. They're like a dreamer. They have a fantasy of starting a business. And we all start out in that fantasy stage. And that's the challenge, is that you have to be willing to kill the fantasy in order to have a reality. Mm-hmm. You can't have both concurrently. Mm-hmm. And so that gets us started, right? We're excited. We see all the upside in starting a business, and we see very little of the downside. We're not connected to reality. And that's why so many businesses get started and so many fail in the first year, right?
Now you're getting philosophical now, Jason.
Well, I'm a philosophical guy. A lot of what I do and teach clients really is built around mindset. It's really not... Usually it's clarity that's holding people back from growth. It's not that they're not taking enough action. I find entrepreneurs are always busy. Some of them, I talked to a guy in Florida when I was out there at a NARPM event that he's working 70 hours a week, and he's like 70 years old. Like, he's working this ridiculous amount of hours, and he's got this business that is just burning him out, right?
Wow.
And so the challenge is, it's not usually the business owners aren't working enough. It's that they're working without clarity. And any action we take without clarity is at least a little bit wrong.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like if
absolutely.
you're like my wife's working on her pilot's license, if she has just the wind, if the wind is just different that day, she will end up in a completely different place unless she does mathematical equations to account for wind and pays attention to that. She could end up in a whole different city an hour later, right?
Yep.
And so that's the challenge, is that there's this pressure, there's this wind that entrepreneurs can't see or aren't aware of.
Yeah, you said a mouthful there. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I've learned that being a business owner myself, I have a law firm, but it's a business. It's the same as any other business, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it's having that vision guided by reality, guided by the practicality of demand and revenue and producing. And so all those things you're saying, I've lived that as well. I know this with property management companies, and I've represented property management companies for 20 years, and really have gotten to know their business. I mean, I'm a real estate broker myself, and so I understand a lot of what they go through. And I can tell you, there's two things that I would note that I see all the time. The first thing is they, as you just alluded to, they don't have enough time in a day to get through all their tasks, so they feel overwhelmed with tasks.
Yeah.
Second thing is they can't get over a certain profit margin, if they even have a profit margin at all.
Yeah.
So let's speak to those two things. So so
that's like in the earlier stages, this becomes a challenge, right? So they get their first door, and between like one door to somewhere around 50 or so, usually they can't break the 100-door barrier. They'll maybe hit 60. I call that the solopreneur sand trap. A lot of them have this mindset, I got to do it all myself. They get caught in what I call the cycle of suck in property management. The cycle sucks 4 easy steps. It's you take on every client, so you have crappy clients.
Yep.
Then you take on every property, so you have crappy properties. And even if the property is newly remodeled and amazing, if the owner's bad, the property's bad because they're pushing back on stuff. They're difficult. They question everything. They're eating up all your operational costs and time. And then you get tenants that are bad. Even if you do all the tenant screening in the world and they have A-grade credit, if the owner and the property are bad, the tenant's bad. And they're difficult for you to deal with. And they're going to push that because the owner's pushing back on things. And a lot of times you end up being a shit shield for a slumlord, right? And that's a hard place to be. So then owners are bad, properties are bad, tenants are bad. Then you have a bad reputation. And so then you get bad reviews. And then guess what you attract more of with your bad reviews? You attract the worst owners because the good ones don't want to work with you. So then most property managers in the industry suck. Most suck. Everywhere. Every property management business owner that starts their business usually has the same story. It's like, I was an investor. I tried using some property managers in my area. None of them were good, so I decided to start my own. But none of these property management business owners started their business going, I want to have a crappy company.
Yeah.
That sounds like a really great idea.
So true.
But it's the default of what happens in this industry. It's the default. If you take on every client, you take on every property. And so eventually they learn, like if they finally break that 100-door barrier, which means they've learned to become a promoter. They're no longer just the solopreneur. They now know how to grow their business. They figured something out, some sort of growth engine. And there's a lot of different ones we help clients install. But once they figure out how to grow, then they break that 100-door barrier. Usually their questions like, how do I speed up growth? And they lack clarity on like purpose and culture. They're selling the wrong product. They're selling property management, which nobody wants to buy. They don't realize that they are the product. And so, but they hustle. And if they hustle hard enough, they start building some team members up, and they can usually get to that 200 to 400 door range, which I call the second sand trap, usually within a year or two, once they crack the code on a little bit of growth, right? 200 to 400 doors are where I see most of either the solopreneur sand trap or what I call the team sand trap. At 200 to 400 doors is where I see the most miserable people. 200 to 400 doors, they have an entire team around them. They think they have a good team, but they've built their team around themselves, and they built it around the wrong person. They've been showing up as the wrong person in their business. It's kind of like they're the center puzzle piece, and they started attaching puzzle pieces around it, but they were showing up as the wrong puzzle piece. It's not authentically who they are. So they're wearing hats they don't enjoy. So if you have an entire team in your business and you're still wearing hats you don't enjoy in your business, you built the wrong team by default.
Yep.
And we all do this. This is like early stage entrepreneurs, and we all do this. Unless you're working with somebody like me and I help you avoid it, right? And I did it. And eventually you have an epiphany and you're like, this is not the business that I dreamt of. This is not the life I want to live. I don't enjoy my day to day. We have to remember, I have a framework I call the 4 reasons. This is my goal with every client that comes to me. Is we start businesses as entrepreneurs for 4 reasons. The first is we want more fulfillment in life. Like, we want to enjoy our life more. That's why we start a business. Most will initially say, no, I'm doing it for money. But why? Why do you want money? The reason we want money is more fulfillment. And then also the second reason, which is freedom. We want more freedom, autonomy, ability to make choices, decisions. But the thing you realize once you get into that $200 to $400 range, if you do it not the right way, which is the most typical way, you can make more and more money and have less and less fulfillment and freedom. And that's where they end up. They have the least amount of fulfillment and the least amount of freedom of anybody that comes to me usually. And they're miserable, and you're in this place if you're asking this question. This is always the secret question they have in their head. And this is written on my DoorGrow code. I have a roadmap for each of these stages called the DoorGrow code. It says, why won't my team just think for themselves? That's the question.
Wow.
Why don't they? Because that's how you set it up. You set it up so that you're so important in the middle, right?
Yep.
And you're involved in every role to some degree. And that's not a scalable business. And so they end up burning themselves out. They hit a point where they've added enough doors that they hit their limit on what they personally can handle, even with their team. And so then they realize, I've built this the wrong way. I didn't build it around me and helping me get more freedom and fulfillment. There's the third reason. Once you have freedom and fulfillment, it's contribution. Usually you want to benefit others. That's what businesses, why they exist, right? That's a legitimate business is solve a real problem in the marketplace. That's contribution. They benefit someone else, right? It's not, because if you're just taking money, you're not benefiting your client, then it's just snake oil, right? So, and property managers, if they do a good job, they are superheroes. Like, they solve 3 of the biggest problems in the real estate investing industry. 3 of the most complained about things on the planet just might be landlords, tenants, and rental properties, right? And if they're good, they're the magic superhero that makes all 3 of those behave better.
I'm curious how you would, so all the things you're saying, it ties into, what I've been preaching for a long time, and that is, knowledge is power. And this, in the context of landlording, you're dealing with people. And as you said, it's not so much property management. You're really people managers. I mean, the house is sitting there. It's not going to give you problems unless, there's a maintenance issue or something like that. But it's the people that give you problems. Yes. And so having the knowledge of knowing how to deal with situations is so important. And then with that, you need to know, what is the law, which, not that they have to be legal experts, but they have to have an awareness of issues that arise in their business and how to address those issues. Having proper documentation that sets up their business properly. And from my perspective, that means having a property management agreement and a lease agreement that reflect your business model. Now, there's legal framework within that, but it's a business, and the only way you can run your business properly is to have those core documents reflect what your business operations are. So that may ring true to you, but I'm curious to see what you think about that.
Well, okay, so the fourth reason is support. Nobody enjoys wearing every hat in their business, right? That's the fourth reason, is support. We have to have a good team. And this, going to what you were saying, most property managers are good property managers, but they're bad people managers. They don't know how to manage their team effectively. A lot of entrepreneurs are terrible managers when it comes to people, and they don't know how to manage their clients effectively. They think they're in the business of property management, and they're wrong. Property management isn't even the product that they should be selling. It's not even what people come to them wanting. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I am so excited to get property management today.
Yeah.
Property management is the vehicle. It's like the flight. If you're taking a trip to Hawaii, it's the flight to Hawaii. Mm-hmm. If the travel agent sat there and tried to sell you on the flight the whole time, you'd be like, yeah, but what about the resort? Like, what am I going to do when I get there? Like, what's available to me? Where am I going to stay? Well, the flight. Let me tell you about, we have all these features with the flight. We've got luggage, and we'll give you this snack, and we'll give peanuts. Well, we don't even do that anymore because people die from those now, but we'll give you something else, and like, we'll give you a cookie, right? And so, yeah, so they're so focused on selling the wrong product. It's not even what the owners want. It's not even what they want. And property managers, because they're such bad people managers, they lack boundaries. They lack boundaries with their team. They lack boundaries with their clients. And so they, like I said, they're giving them a blank check that says, steal all my profits, call me anytime.
Yeah.
So to give you a perspective, like my wife ran a really hyper efficient business. Like I've seen inside a lot of businesses, like thousands in this industry. And hers was pretty exceptional. I've never seen another like it. She managed up to 265 units, C-class properties in Pennsylvania. I would call ghetto coming from California, right? And difficult tenants, right? Difficult owners. This is a cheap market, right? And she had 60 to 90% profit margin. She managed it part-time. It took her 20 hours a week to run her business. And eventually she moved to Austin to be with me. And she had one team member part-time, boots on the ground, remotely, that would just open up property, pick up mail and stuff like that, that she like was only 10, 15 hours a week at best. And so she still had like 60 to 90% profit margin. It was ridiculously efficient. But she had really strong boundaries. Her owners knew they never needed to call her. They trusted her. And she set that expectation from the beginning in how she onboarded them, how she communicated with them. She also, the tenants, she did not allow them to call her. They had to submit things through a portal or through text message. So there was a record. Yep. And so she just, by setting really effective boundaries, and I was like, how do you run this like so efficiently? Like, it was just wild to me. And it was like nothing else I'd seen other clients do, because they're all like, I got to talk to the tenants. They call me all the time, and I got to talk to owners all the time, and prospective clients and prospective tenants all the time. And the only people she would talk to would be prospective clients. Once they're clients, she was basically like, hey, I know we've been talking a lot, but you're not going to hear a lot from me from here on out. And that's good news, because if I call you, I'm asking for money. Yep. And there's a problem. Yep. And then they laugh, and she laughs, and she's like, but seriously. And right. Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah. And so her clients expect her to trust her. And if they didn't, she fired the client. Yeah. She's like, yeah, this isn't going to work. This doesn't work for my lifestyle. This doesn't work. And she was the best in her market. Well, I can tell you, Jason, her business grew.
The story you're telling is a story that I've heard throughout the years. I mean, the track that you're talking about is the track that I've heard so many people say that, during this first number of years of starting their business, all those things that you said happened. And then learning that I can't do business this way. It's not profitable. I'm killing myself. It's spinning my wheels, wasting my time. And so, and I think any property manager who's listening probably they'll agree with what you're saying.
Sure. Yeah.
So give them a little insight on if they call you, or if they text you or email you.
They can call me. You guys want to call me? Let's talk.
And we'll put your information in the podcast notes. But walk us through. How do you even get a sense of, are these property managers a right fit for this? I mean, is there a wrong fit for your business? Is there a wrong fit for what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, totally. Any business, if you allow anyone to be your clients, you will have a crappy business. I used to be doing websites for people that didn't give a shit about me, that treated me poorly, stuff like this. And I was like, I woke up one day and I was like, why am I doing this? I don't enjoy this. I don't like my clients. They're mean to me. They don't value what I do. Right. Yep. And I was like, and this is this is the shift that we like to create in clients. We help them get clear on the actual product, which is themselves. They're the product. And so we're really good at helping them identify and figure out what personally drives them, their why. So when I first got clear on this, I changed everything. Like my personal why mission statement is to inspire others to love true principles. And so what that means is I love figuring out what works and sharing it with others. I would do that for free, for fun. I'm doing it for free, for fun right now.
Yeah.
Right. I enjoy doing this. I love learning. And so DoorGrow exists to feed my addiction to learning and allow me to spend a ridiculous amount of money annually on coaches, masterminds, mentors. I eat my own dog food. Like I believe in coaching. I have multiple coaches at any given time. And I have coaches right now, like a YouTube coach that's helping me with my cool background and like helping me figure out how to like do personal branding. Good. So I believe in getting coached personally and business-wise. And so DoorGrow exists to help me do that. And it gives me a vehicle to be able to turn around and hang out and share these ideas with the coolest people on the planet, which are entrepreneurs. They're different. They care about these 4 reasons, right? Fulfillment, freedom, contribution, and support. They've got to have a good team, or they can't have the first 3, right? And there's a 5th reason. The 5th reason is what makes entrepreneurs different than everybody else. And this is why I love entrepreneurs, because they're like me, right? They're like you. The 5th reason is safety and security. Most people on the planet care more about that 5th reason than all the others.
Yeah.
Most people on the planet would give up their freedom. They would give up fulfillment in life to feel safe first.
Yeah.
And we saw this during the pandemic. There were a lot of people that were like, F your freedoms, I want to feel safe.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how they're wired. All these 5 things are important. We want them too. Like as a business owner, processes and systems, those make me feel safe, right? It gives me safety and security. If a team member leaves, I'm like, cool, we've got all of the processes. I'm not worried. We can replace them. We've got a process for hiring, right? We've got this stuff. But that's low on the totem pole for me, right? Like fulfillment and freedom is way more important than feeling safe for me. Yeah. And entrepreneurs, that's how we're wired. And we're rare. We're the minority on this planet.
Yep.
Maybe that'll change in the future. I think it might. But as of now, they're unique, and that's why everybody else works for us. And so I love hanging out with those people. And so that's my purpose, my why. And so if I can help a property manager figure out their why and what motivates them and why they even have a business and connect them to the 4 reasons, which is unique for them, then everything else changes. It's like if I can tweak the sun at the center of that solar system, everything else changes. Their business changes, their team changes, their marriage changes, like everything else changes when they get that clarity. And so that's one of the magic tricks I love to focus on with clients first. So if somebody comes to me right at the beginning and they're like, I'm miserable, I'm like, cool, you're just doing it wrong. You don't need to change industries. You don't need to change, because if they go start another business, they're going to create the same problem. They're going to hit the same boss in the video game. They don't know how to beat, because that's their level of, knowledge and learning so far. And maybe it's the hiring boss or the managing a team boss or setting boundaries with clients boss or whatever, but they're going to fall into the same trap. And you see entrepreneurs do this. They just keep starting this business sucks. I don't like this. I'll go start another one. And I've coached clients that came to me. They're thinking they wanted to start a property management business, even though they were a 20-year veteran in another industry. And I help them figure out their purpose and get clarity on that. And then they're like, oh, I don't have to change businesses. I just need to change what I'm choosing to do in it.
Yeah.
And then I can build the business and team around me. And so that's the thing, is I want people to understand that are listening, if you don't like your business, you built it that way. And the good news is you can, once you get clarity on yourself, you can rebuild the team, the business, everything else around the right puzzle piece. And because you cannot build the right team around the wrong person. But once you recognize who you are, what you want, what you enjoy, and we move you closer and closer towards, and we have process for this to move you towards those 4 reasons. So you're getting more enjoyment every quarter, more fulfillment, more freedom, more of a sense of contribution. You're making a difference. Then the business starts to stop being a high chair tyrant, flinging food in your face. Like if any of you have kids, right? You don't want the kid to be in charge. The kid should not be driving the bus.
Amen to that.
You should be in charge. You should be in charge and driving the bus. And once you're clear on yourself, it's inevitable. You're going to restructure everything around you and be much happier.
You said some things that, I mean, I'm just reflecting. I mean, it's great to hear you talk about these things and to hear your experience and your knowledge and perspective. It's very much in line with what I've experienced myself. And when you talk about people in your business and the services you provide and their roles in that, I have learned that when you have someone who may not excel in one area, but they're a good employee, like you want someone who shows up, good attitude, willing to do the job, but they're not excelling in a certain area, you put them in a place where they will excel. And so I've moved people around in my office and have found that when they're in that area that they should belong in, man, they excel and they do it the right way. And it creates so much positivity in that business whenever people are in those positions that, and just going to what you said about just structuring the business the way it should be.
Yeah. You know, not everybody's a fit for every business owner, right? And so, when I talk about, like, a lot of people listening, they might have team members and teams, and in that second sand trap, that 200 to 400 door range, usually they think they need more processes. I call it the process myth. They're like, man, if I just had more KPIs and more metrics and more controls and more technology and more systems, I would be able to micromanage my team enough to get a great output, and I'd finally have profitability that I want. But what I've found is it's impossible to micromanage and KPI team members enough if they're the wrong team members. There's no amount of control that will make mediocre people perform great. It's not possible. It's a really demoralizing game to play as a business owner, because you just are going to lose. And so what I have noticed, though, is I've seen teams that have absolutely terrible process documentation. There's no real clarity on their process systems, but they have amazing people and they figure it out. And the processes eventually are living in them, right? And so you cannot out-process. But process is important, but you cannot out-process a mediocre team. So usually at this stage, they actually need a better team. They have the wrong team because it was built around the wrong person. And so we'll start with the business owner. And then once we have that clarity, then we focus on what I call the 3 fits of hiring. And so you alluded to one of them, which is personality fit. If they're not the right personality for the role, there's always friction. They'll avoid it. You'll have to push them to do it. They won't want to. Not everybody likes doing cold calling. Not everybody likes crunching numbers and doing accounting and staring at a computer all day, right? They have to be the right personality fit for it. And if they are, they will love doing it, and you don't have to motivate them to do it. They will just do it because they love it. They're like, yeah, this is fun. I have no problem making cold calls. Like, it's cool. I like the challenge, right? There's somebody that loves doing anything you hate as a business owner. I know it's hard for a lot of, like, entrepreneurs are like, man, I hate doing this, so I got to go find somebody else I can pay that hates doing it. And that's not it. You got to find somebody that loves doing that thing. There's somebody that loves doing anything. One of my mentors would say, there are people out there that love changing bedpans. Yeah. And my sister-in-law is a nurse. And so I asked her about this, and she's like, well, I don't love changing bedpans, but I love how it makes them feel. I'm like, so you basically love changing bedpans? She's like, well, yeah, I guess. And I'm like, but I would hate doing that, right? That would not be fun for me. So I think the personality fit is one. The most important, though, is culture fit. This means they need to match the entrepreneur. They need to share your values. They need to fit in with your philosophy. And if they don't, here's what's dangerous. Most people on the planet are not money motivated. I know entrepreneurs, you need to hear this because I've coached so many people on this. They don't understand this. Most people on the planet are not money motivated or money driven, like you, Mr. or Mrs. Entrepreneur that's listening, or Miss Entrepreneur. So we make this gross assumption everybody else is money driven. And here's the problem. If they're not money motivated, and this shows up on a DISC assessment, like most people have on a DISC assessment, there's the values index, and there's this portion called the economic score. Most people's economic score is low, which means they don't like money. They're not really into it. Once their basic needs are met, then money will not change behavior. It actually makes it worse. They overcorrect. So if you are trying to bonus people, compensate people, incentivize people with money, that's based on your blind spot because you like money. And they're not money motivated. Here's the thing, when it comes to culture fit, if you are hiring people that are not money motivated, the only exception is usually salespeople. They're money motivated. Anybody else, usually not so much. That means they're recognition motivated. And recognition costs very little. It doesn't cost a lot. And if you're bonusing them without recognition, it makes them feel gross and slimy. They're like, oh, my boss is this jerk that just like throws money at me, whatever. And if you pay them too much, what will happen is their performance actually decreases. If you pay more than they believe they deserve or are worth, they actually get worse. Because what happens is they're not going to not take the money. So they justify it somehow. And the way they justify it, in order to take the money and they feel bad about it, they have to make you worse. They always make their boss to be the bad guy. And that's why most people working for bosses complain about their boss and live for the weekend. They don't really enjoy their job. They're not maybe a personality fit for it because they don't care about fulfillment and freedom as much as safety and security. So they will stay with you and they'll take your money. But here's the thing, if they're not a culture fit, they always steal from you. Every team member you ever hire, if they are not a culture fit, which means they don't share your top 3 values in the business, they will always steal from you. They'll take time. They'll surf Facebook. They're not maybe a personality fit, so they don't like doing the job. They'll avoid it. But if they're not a culture fit, they always steal from you in some way. And sometimes if their values are really misaligned with yours, they just like legitimately steal from you. Like I had a client came to me after they had a property manager that had stolen $100,000 from their trust account by writing security deposits to themselves. Yep.
I've seen that before.
And like, you imagine the shame that this property business owner that felt like having to approach their clients, explain to them the problem, say, I'm going to figure it out. She hated her business. She wanted out of it.
Yeah. Not to mention the legal consequences of that situation.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was a mess, absolute mess. And so that's the thing. The third fit is they have to be a skill fit, which I sometimes call the intellectual fit. They have to be smart enough to develop the skill quickly to do the job. Some people might be the right personality fit. They might be the right culture fit. They love you. They love being on the team. They love the business. They love the job that they have, but they're too dumb to figure out the job or learn it quickly or figure out your tech or whatever it might be. So they have to be all 3. They have to be a skill fit, a personality fit, and a culture fit. And if they're all 3, you will get easily 3 times the output from those team members versus anyone that's missing one of those.
Yep.
3 times like these. And so we, as a coach, when we at our next level in our program where we start to focus after growth on ops, we focus on your hiring system. We call it people, planning, and process. And if we can get those 3 systems dialed in, we call that the super system, your business becomes infinitely scalable. And all 3 of those impact your biggest expense in the business besides taxes, which is people. And so it's the biggest profit levers we can find in a business. Most think it's KPIs or metrics. It's not. I can outpace any other coach's KPI magic in terms of results by getting way more team performance and output, by building the right culture and focusing on people, planning, and process. We get those 3 levers dialed in. They get 3 times the output and they have dramatically lower operational costs.
So is this part of what DoorGrow does as far as helping them find the right people, knowing how to, place the right people? Okay.
Yeah, we have a hiring system called DoorGrow Hiring. We have an operating system that I believe trumps EOS or any of those other planning systems out there. We call DoorGrow OS. That's built intrinsically around the right motivators. It's built around recognition. It's built around winning, and it's built to allow the team to thrive and take ownership of pieces rather than the visionary pushing stuff through an integrator onto a team to control everybody, in which they always end up as the emperor with no clothes because everybody on the team says, yeah, yes, boss, whatever you say.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot, Jason. That's a lot. I must say. I mean, that's what you have said. It's just it's
I'm
so
soapboxing, man. Sorry.
but it's because I'm thinking about stories as you're talking. I mean, like I thought about my uncle, who was a very successful businessman in South Florida or Central South Florida, and he would so he and I have obviously interest in entrepreneurial discussion, and a lot of the stuff you're saying, like that's what he's told me these things.
Yeah. So it sounds like he kind of inspired you a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. He's definitely an inspiration. I try to go see him when I can. I do have to go down to Central and South Florida for business, and I try to stop by and talk to him. And we always talk about this stuff. And so the stories you're saying, I'm sure that if he were here, he'd be saying, "Yep, that's right, Jason. That's right, Jason."
Well, I think the thing that I've noticed, because when I learn and develop frameworks or these ideas, because I really geek out on this stuff and I love frameworks. When I figure stuff out, there's patterns that are universal. Everything gravitates towards truth that works. And I'm focused on what works. And so I'll figure things out, and then I'll tell somebody else about it. And they're like, oh, there's a book about this. Like the cycle of suck. Like when I developed that framework, some people were like, hey, have you ever heard of the Pumpkin Plan by Mike Michalowicz? Talks about not taking on crappy clients and how you have to weed out bad clients. And I'm like, yeah. So then I eventually had Mike Michalowicz on my podcast and had him speak at our DoorGrow live conference, because I was like, hey, but truth is truth, right? What works is what works. And the more I progress in my own evolution and learning and developing ideas and frameworks, the more you'll see those patterns elsewhere, and the more other people have figured it out too. And so, there's this resonance, this synergy.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, if you have any sort of last minute nuggets, we can let you speak to that, Jason. I don't want to take too much of your time. I know you're a busy guy. But what would you leave the listeners with as we start to conclude?
Yeah.
Contact you.
Well, I was going to, I'll get to that, but I was getting into my feels, my empathy here, but I really running a business is hard. Mm-hmm. And the hardest path to growth is to do it alone.
Yep.
People don't realize my team is small, they think, but I have a network of people that I rely on. I have attorneys, I have accountants, I have tax advisors. I have this network that it gets bigger and bigger every year of people that I lean on for resources. I have lots of coaches and programs and masterminds that I'm a part of. The slowest path to growth is to do it you're on your own. And I always used to think in the early stages of entrepreneurism, I used to think it was some weird badge of honor if I could read a book or watch a YouTube video and figure it out all by myself.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I realized how I probably wasted a decade of progress. And we're able to help clients in a year do what some take a decade to do. And collapse time. And so this is my parting words. I think everybody listening, if you are not getting results, you're not progressing enough, your goals are too shitty. That's it. Your goals are too limited. If your goal's survival, that's the worst. Your business, I know you're in a miserable place. If your goal is maybe 100 doors this year, that's super realistic. The problem with realistic thinking is your brain has nothing to do. It's based on your current limited level of thinking. And so unless you can get into the space where you get into impossible goals, you have to get outside of what your brain thinks is realistic. You have to get into impossible land, right? Mm-hmm. This is impossible to do it in this time frame or to go this big. If you get in that space, you become then a visionary. A lot of people hear the phrase visionary entrepreneurs. You're only a visionary if you can see things that others can't see. If you're seeing beyond what you currently can see as your present reality, which means you have to get it impossible or ridiculous. I've had clients go, how do I get from 100 doors to 1,000 doors in a year? And they figured it out. You have to create impossible goals, because when you create impossible goals, it levels up your thinking and it gets you to find new pathways that are easier. It takes less work. There's less steps. It's less hard, because most people's realistic goals are based on what they know they could do and then just working way harder to do more of it.
Yeah.
which is a really terrible path. And so you have to create these impossible goals and find new pathways or much shorter timelines, because then it becomes a tool. It doesn't matter if you even hit it. If your goal is 1,000 doors in a year and you get 100 that year, I don't think you'll cry, right? Yeah. So it becomes a playground, but usually, and so this is something I learned recently from Ben Hardy. Has this great book called 10X is Easier Than 2X. Great book. But his newest book was more about this, which is The Science of Scaling. Phenomenal book. And he has an audiobook called Time as a Tool, which is goes along with it. But this is the idea of impossible goals. So we've been playing with this in the mastermind, and clients are doing some cool things. Yeah. Because when you set impossible goals, it raises the floor on what you're tolerating, what you're dealing with, and you have to let stuff go. You have to delegate. You have to stop doing certain things. You have to stop talking to every tenant and owner. And so it's hard to try and convince people to stop doing things, but it's a lot easier for me to convince clients, your goals suck based on results. You need much bigger goals. And so if you don't have big enough goals, you're not going to feel excited about the business. You're not going to feel a little nervous and scared. You're not going to be making moves. You're not going to be thinking differently. And so that's my parting word. Set some big, impossible goals.
Yeah. Well, if what you have said has not at least inspired the listeners to look into what you do, then I would be very surprised, because I think it's just fascinating as a business owner myself. So Jason, I greatly appreciate you being on the show today. Lots of good information, and I'm going to encourage the listeners to check out Jason. You can go to DoorGrow.com, and you can see what they do there and the services, etc. And I'll put that notes in the put that in the podcast notes. But yeah, Jason, thanks again so much for your time. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be on here. And if anybody is just interested in entrepreneurial general advice or wants to see all the crazy stuff that I'm into personally, you can follow me on any social media as King Jason Hull, Hull. So,
King Hull.
King Jason Hull. Yeah, there were other Jason Hulls, so I figured I'll just make my name King Jason Hull.
Perfect.
So
great. Thanks so much, Jason, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the near future. And who knows, we may see each other on some property manager conference or something like that.
Cool. Awesome, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jason. And everybody, thanks for joining the show today, and thanks for listening. We greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next episode. Have a good one.